Have you ever heard a story so outlandish before that you knew it couldn't be true? Me too. And that's what today's video is about. Crazy Kansas urban legends that cannot be true. Right? Or could they? Listen to these eerie old Kansas myths and legends to decide for yourself. Because you may find out that the phrase, "I believe we're not in Kansas anymore," has a totally different meaning. The Sallie House. Atchison's most famous haunted house, the Sallie House, is visited by hundreds each year. The house is currently not occupied, and available for both daytime visits and overnight stays. A waiver is required due to the potential for personal injury, though no serious injuries have been reported since the last tenants in 1993. Originally built at the turn of the century, this house became the residence of an Atchison physician. The front served as office space and examination rooms, while the doctor and his family lived upstairs. One day, a frantic mother arrived carrying her 6-year-old daughter, Sally. The child had collapsed from severe abdominal pain. The doctor diagnosed appendicitis and knew there was no time to delay surgery. Believing the appendix would soon burst, the doctor began cutting Sally before the anesthesia took full effect. Sally's screams suddenly stopped, and she grew pale and limp. She died on the operating table, her last memories of a man whom she believed was torturing her. Though the house had long been known to be haunted, Sally's haunting grew ominous in 1993, when the house was rented to a young couple. Their dog seemed to growl at nothing, especially near the upstairs nursery. Things began to take a violent turn, however. Fires broke out in the house, and a series of sinister attacks on the husband began. The operating area would become cold. Objects would visibly move when the young man drew near. He could feel scratches upon his chest or abdomen, but never did the ghost attack the wife or baby. Events that have been witnessed by visitors to the Sallie House include video and investigative equipment that stop working, batteries that are full immediately and completely draining, experience moving objects, unexplained scratches or bruising on their bodies during/after visits, physical touches, mysterious coldness. Trained guide dogs refuse to enter the nursery.
Yeah. I'm coming.
I got scratched.
Oh, did you? Where? This now? Where at? Where at, bud? Yeah.
Is it?
There's a mark back there.
Are you filming it?
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm
it's
trying.
It's Halloween, bro.
There's a mark there.
Yep. You have fun with that.
I felt the burning. I felt the burning and I started touching
don't
it.
need to be told it.
Okay, there you go.
Whatever doesn't.
Are you feel funny now?
All right. Wow.
Stoll Cemetery, aka the Gateway to Hell. Stoll is a quiet, peaceful town in Kansas that is rumored to be one of the 7 gateways to hell. It's said that within the tiny, decrepit Stoll Cemetery, there are a set of hidden steps that lead straight into the underworld. The steps are covered by a hidden seal that appears only on Halloween and on the spring equinox, making their location almost impossible to find. The cemetery is said to be a place where witches and cults practice dark rituals, and that mysterious townsfolk guard Stoll from disturbances to this day. There are many stories of thrill-seeking trespassers being chased out of the town by pickup trucks, sometimes even being tailed for miles. The Hamburger Man. A rural Kansas road cloaked with mystery and whispered lore is the setting for the Hamburger Man legend. Local legend states that anyone who travels this route after dark may encounter an enigmatic figure, the Hamburger Man. According to the legend, This mysterious person wears torn attire and carries an apron smeared with blood. His face is rumored to be disguised by shadows or a filthy hood. In his skeletal, extended hands, he holds out a platter of freshly cooked hamburgers, purportedly created from the remains of his unlucky victims. Numerous reports of unsettling encounters with the Hamburger Man have surfaced throughout time. Witnesses describe feeling a tangible sensation of fear and anxiety when they come upon this ethereal apparition. Some others say they saw him standing strangely still by the side of the road, while others tell terrifying stories of how he would suddenly appear in the rearview mirror and then disappear. Despite the spine-tingling quality of these reports, the reality of the Hamburger Man is not supported by any hard data. The human imagination's ability and the desire to create chilling tales that endure in local folklore are often cited as the sources of these tales. Like many other urban legends, the Hamburger Man's origins are the subject of several theories. Some suggest that the tale originated as cautionary, alerting visitors to the perils of traveling through lonely places at night. Some speculate it may be a dreadful invention designed to add excitement and mystery to the local culture. People who live in Kansas are still fascinated by the myth of the Hamburger Man. It has been passed down from generation to generation, and is now an essential component of the state's folklore. While some reject it as mere superstition, others relish the story's spine-tingling thrill and enjoys the chills it causes. Urban mythology has an enduring influence, as evidenced by the Kansas Hamburger Man tale. Many are left wondering about the secrets that could be hiding in the shadows, since it lives on the thin boundary between fact and fantasy. One thing is certain: the Hamburger Man will continue to capture the curious, and terrifies those who dare to walk in the night, whether he is a ghostly apparition or the result of imaginative storytelling. The Blue Albino Woman. Well known around Topeka, Kansas is the Blue Albino Woman. She was once a resident of Topeka, and the residents of the town would often torment her. She had the distinction of bluish-white skin and long bleach-white hair. She was said to be very strange, but most would tell you she was just eccentric. So hated was the woman that she was dragged out to the Rochester Cemetery and buried alive by some local thugs and scumbags. It is said that she now walks the grounds of that cemetery, and should you enter at night, she'll make sure you never forget your visit. In fact, hundreds of locals and visitors claim to have seen her. As recently as 2013, the albino spectra left her mark on local Jessica Streeter. Jess and her boyfriend thought the cemetery was a perfect location to have some romantic fun. They laid out a blanket and were getting into it, when Jess says a hand came up out of the ground, and soon after was the crazy-eyed witch. According to the couple, she scratched them and even tried to choke Jessica. In another incident, a young boy named James George was in a department store with his mother when he happened upon some mannequins. He didn't think much of it until one horrible-looking one turned to face him. He screamed and ran to his mother. Once in her arms, he pointed, and there, still standing, was the Blue Albino Woman. Then he claimed she just glided past them right out the door, or more so through the door. Many other people have come forward saying they've had run-ins as well. The Devil's Chair. Well, what do you know? This is the second urban legend video in a row that includes a Devil's Chair. I guess a lot of states have one. And I can assure you that it's probably not the last time I'll mention one. The story goes that in the 1800s, a mean old farmer owned all that land around the time the city was being built. The town couldn't get him to sell his land to them, despite a lot of effort. As legend goes, One day, when he was collecting water from his well, he was suddenly pushed in. Maybe it was out of spite, or possibly he just lost his footing and fell in. Either way, the city builders went to talk to him some more about selling, and noticed the nasty smell in the well and called in police. The sheriff claimed there was nothing and no one in the well, and ordered it sealed up, and announced that the report was to be forgotten about. Stories say those who sit in the chair will be cursed by the ghost of the farmer. In the 1980s, according to the story, some teenagers decided to try and see his ghost near the well. One curious teen decided to sit on top of it, but when his friends looked away for only a moment, the boy was gone. They thought it was a practical joke, but they never saw their friend again. This is how most stories of devil's chairs go, but it's probably not a good idea to go sitting on some random old structures you're not sure of. Molly's Hollow. As the story goes, long ago there was a young African-American girl named Molly who lived in Atchison, Kansas. Molly mostly led a normal life. However, some of the racist locals found out that she was dating a white boy from the area. At this point in our history, this was unacceptable to a lot of folks. Unfortunately for Molly, a band of local racists took things a bit too far one dark evening in trying to get their message across that they did not want her dating white men. The next day, Molly was found hanging by her neck from a tree in a wooded hollow. She was lynched. Today, the woods are known as Jackson Park, and the hollow where the girl was found is known as Molly's Hollow. Visitors to the park today claim that the spirit of Molly still lingers in the hollow. It is said that on certain nights around midnight, you can hear the screams of a girl coming from what they believe is Molly's Hollow. They believe that this is the disembodied sounds of Molly as she pleaded for her life long ago in that stretch of woods. There are others who claim to have actually seen what they believe is a full-bodied apparition of a girl hanging from a tree in the area where Molly died. Others claim to have felt an eerie presence and unseen hands touching, pulling, or grabbing them as they made their way through the hollow. Some versions of the story state that Molly was not an African American and was hanged by her boyfriend after he became angry with her for not going all the way with him. No matter what version you choose to believe really happened, many who have visited the park claim that the haunting is real. Jackson Park is the largest in the city of Atchison, Kansas, and is situated just off the banks of the Missouri River. It contains hiking and biking trails, some of which take you through Molly's Hollow. If you visit at the right time, you just may catch the sound of Molly's chilling screams, or even see her. Bird Bridge. The quiet city of Emporia was rocked the early morning hours of July 17, 1983, as an overturned station wagon was found at the bottom of the craggy embank of the Cottonwood River underneath the Rocky Ford Bridge. Lying face down in the water, supposedly thrown from the car, was 33-year-old Sandy Bird, wife of Reverend Thomas Bird, mathematics professor at Emporia State, and mother of 3 children. As police swarmed the site, rumors began to fly about the fate of Sandy Bird. Could it have just been a terrible accident? Or was there something darker at hand? Though blood was found on the bridge, the county police wrote it off as an accident, and the city mourned and moved forward. However, the story began to meld into something entirely different when Martin Anderson was shot and killed by a masked gunman in Geary County on November 4th, 1983. Married to the secretary of Thomas Bird, Lorna Anderson, Martin Anderson's murder made the city begin to question the original story. Was Sandy Bird murdered as well? The tale has become an urban legend around the city, resulting in late-night drives out to the now renamed Bird Bridge and eerie experiences of the late Sandra Bird. Even during the daytime, the creaking bridge at the end of Road P's dusty gravel road gives anyone who heads out there the chills. Locals report hearing screams and moaning, and claim to have seen Sandy's ghost walking to the shore from the water. Sour Castle. Perched atop a hill overlooking the Kansas River, on a winding street in an affluent residential neighborhood, Sour Castle of Kansas City still looks like something ripped from a gothic ghost story. Built between 1869 and 1871, the 2.5-story house with its soaring tower and Widow's Walk is said to be the finest example of 19th century Italianate architecture in the state of Kansas. It's also said to be extremely haunted. The castle's original occupant was Anton Sauer, a German-born businessman who moved to Kansas City from New York after the death of his first wife in 1868. Ill with tuberculosis, Sauer nevertheless survived his westward trek, where he met a 28-year-old widow named Mary Einhelig Messerschmidt. The two married in 1869, adding Mary's 2 daughters to the family of 5 children Anton brought with him from New York. The couple bore 5 additional daughters, one of whom died in infancy in the house itself and was interred on the grounds. When Anton Sauer succumbed to tuberculosis in his bedroom only a month later, he was laid to rest in Union Hill Cemetery, with his infant daughter reburied at his side, though rumors persist that every member of the Sauer family is buried somewhere on the property of the now crumbling estate. In fact, Sour Castle seems to attract many strange tales and wild stories. Legends tell of a woman who hanged herself in the tall tower, of buried treasure and buried bodies, and a secret tunnel that leads to the river. A deranged husband supposedly murdered his entire family in Sour Castle and buried them in the backyard before killing himself. Neighbors claim to see floating lights in the tower and on the grounds, and to hear voices from within the house when no one is living there. The Widow's Walk is said to be haunted by the apparition of a woman who paces it in black, while on Halloween a man and a woman can be seen dancing in the tower. While the facts of the castle's history may be less salacious and spooky, there's plenty of dark history behind the house to please ghost hunters and historians alike. 5 generations of the Sauer family lived and died in the house, including a single suicide. Over the years, several ghost hunters, psychics, and paranormal researchers have turned their attentions to the castle. In the 1980s, several investigations concluded that the haunting was localized in the attic, while Maurice Schwalm, a historian of supernatural happenings and the author of the 1999 book Mocan Ghosts, the casebook of a Kansas City psychic investigator, reportedly took photographs during his investigation that showed evidence of spirits. Not all investigators are convinced of Sour Castle's paranormal nature. After conducting a significant examination of the house and its owners, Becky Ray of Paranormal Activity Investigators seemed substantially less convinced of Sour Castle's spectral inhabitants, referring to it as, quote, a beautiful empty house that seems to beg for ghost stories to be attached to it, unquote. The current owner, Carl Lopp, a descendant of Anton Sawyer who bought the house in 1988 with the intention of restoring it, is even clearer, stating in a post to a closed Facebook group that, quote, there are no ghosts and no evil spirits inhabiting the castle or the property, unquote. Nevertheless, ghost stories about Sour Castle persist. Standing in the shadow of the ominous home, it's easy to see why. So long as it sits empty and strange atop the hill in Kansas City, such tales will continue to gather in its vacant rooms like cobwebs. Today, a massive chain-link fence surrounds Sour Castle in a futile attempt to keep out vandals, sightseers, and would-be ghost hunters. Plastic private property and beware of dog signs flap in the breeze. In spite of being listed on the National Register of History Places, Sour Castle continues to deteriorate year after year. Neighbors these days seem less concerned with phantoms than they are with the fate of the house itself, which may one day transform from an out-of-the-way Kansas City landmark to just another lost piece of the city's storied history. Child's Play Cemetery. Way out in Leroy, Kansas is a long gravel road leading out to an even smaller cemetery. This cemetery is one of the more scary haunted places in Kansas, and many who visit report all of the odd feelings and strange happenings that are attached to this location. The name of the graveyard is the Lorenz Schlichter Cemetery, named after a German-born farmer with the same name, who settled in Kansas in 1857. However, it is more commonly known as Child's Play Cemetery because of the chilling legends that are attached here. According to legend, you are supposed to clean your car thoroughly if you visit at night. Then, stay in your car until you hear a thump, and do not exit. Upon reaching somewhere safely far from the cemetery, you will find a dusty handprint, as if something with more dust than the road had stamped your car. Other visitors have reported their car covered in tiny handprints and dirt marks, even though the only thing they've encountered is normal road dust. There are more reports of children laughing, the squeaking of a rusty swing no one can find, and odd orbs or human figures in photos have also been recorded. However, in complete daylight, the cemetery is only full of the beloved lives lost to time. Theo Rosa's Bridge. About 12 miles north of Wichita, Kansas, sits the small town of Valley Center. Having a population of about 7,300 residents, the settlement was born in 1872 on the Little Arkansas riverbanks. Located along the ever-important railroad, the town grew to include a post office, 3 stores, 2 blacksmith shops, a grain elevator, and several homes by the early 1880s. Though now a bedroom community to nearby Wichita commuters, one of the biggest attractions in this quiet town is the haunted Theo Rosa Bridge, also known as the 109th Street Bridge and the Crybaby Bridge. On an old country road 3 miles north of town on Meridian Street, this old bridge spans Jester Creek at the intersection with 109th Street. Several legends about this bridge's haunting are based on a baby drowning in the creek below. Today, the bridge is a simple concrete bridge that normally no one would pay any attention to, except for the legends. The first legend tells of settlers passing through the area in the late 19th century when Indians attacked them, and a baby named Theo Rosa was kidnapped. Her grief-stricken mother was said to have left the wagon train to search for her missing daughter, and reportedly continues to look today as her mournful cry can still be heard calling out for her child. Another legend is that a skirmish between the cavalry and an Indian tribe living by the creek occurred about this time. In this version, an Indian woman is stabbed, and her baby is dropped into the creek and drowned. Yet another tale suggests that a woman named Theo Rosa is a young woman who has an illegitimate baby and drowns it in Jester Creek to hide her shame. Later, overcome by guilt, she also drowns herself in the creek. Finally, another tells of an engaged woman who fell in love with another man and bore his child. Jealous with rage, her fiancé reportedly threw the baby over the bridge into the creek, and Theo Rosa jumped off the bridge to save her baby, but drowned herself instead. In any event, the bridge has been reported to have been haunted for years and years. Many have reported seeing floating balls of light, eerie shapes, and the apparition of a woman in the area around the bridge. Cars are said to mysteriously stall as they cross, or if they should stop, they will feel the entire vehicle begin to shake. Others report cold breezes seemingly coming from nowhere, and the sounds of mournful voices or the chilling cries of a baby. Yet others say that the weather is consistently different at the bridge than in the rest of the area. Rumor has it that if you call out to Tia Rosa, telling her that you have her baby, she'll come out of the water and attack you. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The original iron and wood bridge that first stood at Jester Creek for decades burned down in 1974 and was rebuilt and was destroyed by fire again in 1976. Afterward, it was closed for the next 15 years. However, in 1991, the road was reopened, and the current concrete bridge was built and continues to serve travelers across the creek. St. Jacob's Well. This gorgeous area of Kansas is always beautiful in any season, but when it starts to be a little spooky, people love to speculate on the possibility of it being haunted, as the stories say. Whether you believe it or not, the legends at this watering hole are too creepy to look past. Today's adventure sends us out to Big Basin Prairie Preserve, or rather half a mile east at Little Basin. This is the location where there may or may not be a haunted pool of never-ending depth. This beautiful area looks gorgeous, but happens to have a few haunted legends attached to the pool of water in the middle. Whether they are true or not is up to you. If you peer into the depths, you'll find that you can't see the bottom of this pool. However, some believe that the pool is deceptively bottomless, meaning that anyone who attempts to touch the bottom may drown. The main story of this allegedly haunted pool revolves around a cowboy who visited the water with his horse, only to attempt to swim and fall in, perishing in the water. It's said that if you're here too late, you'll hear the blood-curdling screams of the horse and cowboy drowning. Other tales tell of eyeless fish and a bottomless well, which may have tried to touch the bottom of in years past, perishing and becoming part of the haunted energy. According to elevation scans and divers, the well is only 18 feet deep. However, geologists have also confirmed that shifts in the earth could have changed the depth over the years, as the legends date back to the late 1800s. Even if you don't believe in all the stories, this is still a beautiful area to behold. Just don't decide to take a dip in the pool, because you may meet the same fate as the cowboy.